what a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, how dare you? Then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by the Adam Meakin, the One, Quantum Eraser, Chocolate Saiyan, Arwin, Anon Moto and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you one and all.
Hey, hey, hey.
Good afternoon.
We also have Sleeping Warrior in Skype and a whole bunch of people on Discord. So welcome one and all.
Woohoo. It's a lovely flat Friday.
Thank you.
It's
Thursday where I am.
It's Thursday, isn't it?
It's going to be tomorrow.
Okay, so if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then yeah, but we've just gone live. Literally just. So it couldn't have been any less relevant.
Record? Damn.
For those of you on the recording, yeah. So just to highlight to the special people in the live audience that you are amongst the few that get to see this show early because you're subscribed to the second channel. So thank you very much to all of you in the live stream, really appreciate it. But most of the people watching this are actually watching on the main channel on Friday. So yeah, correct, the one. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from Oceanside.
Not on a flat plane.
I like that.
Not from Earth.
Any signs of axial rotation? Any scientific
Nothing
evidence of gravity?
What is gravity? Something that's 130 years old, cited by some PhD muppet.
No, he's wrong. He's out of date. The current bullshittery is the bending of a conceptual medium known as spacetime to give rise to a not actual force known as gravity.
Ah, you mean the bending of the minds of the religious zealots?
Yeah, their concept called spacetime.
Oh, that makes sense. So no scientific evidence about that bullshit. Sorry.
No. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only in a Hollywood movie.
Only in that movie with Bruce Willis.
What's it called? The core?
Yeah, the core.
You're goddamn right.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
How would you go around establishing a distance to the sun? Would you use an equation?
Use a ruler.
Is Highlander around?
Yeah, but it seems to... I mean, if you try to use a ruler, the more you approach the sun, it seems like it's receding away from you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, ideally you'd need to know what it is first to know if you could ever reach it with a ruler. But we don't know that, and neither do they. I mean, they've got their assertions about what it is, a gas in a vacuum, but that obviously has its own problems. I mean, any evidence that you can have a gas pressure without a container? Highlander here. I did actually say never come back again, although that's just a threat. That isn't true. I don't ban anybody. It's not my server. Just total bravado when I was like, never come back here again, Highlander.
I think he needed a day off.
Have you banned from this server?
I can't. It's not my server. Totally empty threat.
It's hitting the booze.
Go on.
I haven't seen any evidence of gas pressure without a container. If anything, I would say that it's evident that it must be a container in order to have pressurized gas.
Yeah, it's the necessary antecedent. Is there any evidence in the entire history of the fields of astronomy, astrophysics, or cosmology of any viable scientific hypothesis?
I'm sorry.
No.
No, there is none.
What about the R value, Earth radius, the presupposition thereof? Any evidence of that?
Nope, just presupposition. Who's the guy that measured Earth's circumference if it's a ball? It poses two problems. First, we don't know how they've measured it, and second, how do you know it's a ball in the first place?
Arastinos figured it out.
Aristarchus. To quote Kosho, it was
Arastinos.
it was the presupposition of the shadow on the moon that gave it away.
Yeah,
But
but
is that a
correlation,
Never seen
shadow
a red
on the
shadow.
moon?
correlation is not a causation. So if there is a circular object, if you don't even know if it's spherical, you just see a circle in the sky, how can you determine that the thing below your feet is spherical?
It's freaking red. You can't have a red shadow.
So
Doesn't that also presuppose that the moon is a solid, tangible physical object that man can visit and play golf on?
yeah, that's also part of their narrative, strangely enough, including the playing golf on it bit, amazingly.
Me and Kiwi are touchy on golf.
You and Curie or what?
Touchy on golf.
I still didn't catch that.
We're touchy on golf, on the topic of golf.
Touchy on goal.
Yeah. No, touchy on golf, the game of golf.
Oh, touchy on golf. You're both golfers.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So I work.
We don't mind. We
So
allow that.
It's all a giant sand trap.
Dan, if you're a golfer as well, mate, I've found that if I shank the ball off one way, I tend to blame Coriolis.
Yeah, that's a good excuse, yeah.
Don't worry, Adam. You're still top flight to me.
The 10th man top flight is not in production anymore. They don't make those balls in 5 years now already.
That makes the joke even better.
You don't know how old I am. Hey, Adnan, you said
Pretty old,
something.
he's got an iPhone 8.
Yeah, there you go.
What?
Adnan, you said something about Bruce Willis being in the core. I didn't see that movie. Was that the movie where they go where?
No,
Yes,
Bruce Willis.
what happens is the core stops. So Bruce Willis and some guys build a thing with NASA, and then they dig a hole, and then they use nuclear bombs to jumpstart the core, and then everything is okay.
Okay, so I didn't see the movie, but you say Bruce Willis was in it?
I'm vague, dude.
I don't remember
Bruce Willis in the core.
Willis is not in that movie.
I don't remember Bruce in that.
Maybe it's the guy with the
I
blood
don't-
chin. What's his name?
Nah, it's Bruce
Armageddon.
Willis.
Black.
He's driving to the oil rig.
That's
a-
Armageddon. That's Armageddon.
Yes.
Who the hell's in the core?
Sorry, have we got an appeal to Bruce Willis fallacy going on or what?
Yeah.
Because everything is Bruce. No,
know
you're
what?
talking about Armageddon when Bruce Willis is mining on the asteroid
in
that
the
they
core?
sent him to.
Hey, Chocolate, the Bruce Willis
Yo.
fallacies die hard.
Oh, God.
Oh my! I should have known.
Right.
Should have known.
Before it gets out of hand, is it Anthony or Sleeping Warrior and Quantum Eraser still around?
Yes, master.
Is QE there? You there, QE? You back yet?
Yeah, I got rumpus.
Obviously, you two are the most involved in this subject matter. Are you ready to rock and roll before Anthony told us off again?
Oh, are you ready? Hold on a second. Let me share my screen. Yeah.
Perfect. No rumpusing,
Cool.
please.
Tell me when it's up.
Yeah, you're up.
Now, can everyone see this? One last admin. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. This is Dr. Danny Faulkner, PhD astronomer, in his reply on Facebook to our own Tony, Anthony Riley, aka Sleeping Warrior. Dr. Danny Faulkner. Gravity is a force. Okay. I have 12 citations here that say the opposite. From George Musser, Scientific American, November 2015. Einstein created his general theory of relativity, which provides our modern understanding of gravity with the express purpose of expunging non-locality from physics. Isaac Newton's gravity acted at a distance as if by magic, and general relativity snapped the wand in two by showing that the curvature of space-time, and not an invisible force, gives rise to gravitational attraction. Citation number 2 from Caltech. Einstein came up with the theory of general relativity in 1915, the prototype of all modern gravitational theories. Its crucial ingredient, involving a colossal intellectual jump, is the concept of gravitation not as a force, but as a manifestation of the curvature of spacetime. Brian Cox, there isn't really a force of gravity at all. George Musser, 2019, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. From their alma mater wiki, gravity is most accurately described by the general theory of relativity proposed by Albert Einstein in 1915, which describes gravity not as a force. From the universe today, in general relativity, gravity is not a force between masses. Strictly speaking, gravity not as a force. From Phys.org, according to this theory, gravity is not a force. From New Scientist, so although the Earth appears to be pulled towards the sun by gravity, there is no such force. From Phys Libre Text, the answer is that gravitation is not a force between two objects, and the physics hypertext book, gravity isn't a force. Okay. Point number 2. This is another silly pseudo objection. He might know what pseudo means. I digress. This is another silly pseudo objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating now. This is a stereotype fallacy, Dr. Danny Faulkner. For your last claim, if you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. From the Standard Model, their alma mater wiki. The Standard Model of particle physics is a theory describing 3 of the 4 unknown fundamental forces: the electromagnetic, weak, strong interactions, and not, Danny, NOT, and not including the gravitational force. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day.
A big shout out to Anthony for getting that incorrect quotation out of Dr. Daniel Faulkner. Well done, Anthony.
Shout out exaggerated. How can you write a book, right? I had a look at what he claimed. I criticised him for writing a book without mentioning Einstein when talking about gravity. And he corrected me and said, if you check in the index of my book, you'll see I mentioned Einstein where it was relevant. And I'm like, oh, so it's not relevant to talk about Einstein when you're talking about gravity, right? So I looked at the part where he was referencing Einstein, and he's doing it in relation to special relativity rather than general relativity. And he's arguing about whether light and Sagnac effect and movement of Earth and gravimeters and all the things to do with motion He's arguing it in that context. And so he's not even addressing general relativity. He's referencing special relativity and whether or not the ether exists and all that nonsense. I mean, yeah, that might be a point in that context, in that conversation, but you can't have a conversation about gravity and not mention Einstein unless you're deceiving people. Either that or you've just forgot to wiki before you wrote your book.
Hold up. He's saying that this is something flat earthers are all parroting, right? Well, all those citations John read, are any of those guys flat earthers?
No.
Right. So kind of shit on himself right there, then, huh? Because Neil deGrasse not a flat earther, Brian Cox is not a flat earther, George Bush is not a flat earther, but yeah, you seem to think, Doctor, that it's just flat earthers that are saying this. You're out of your mind, Doctor.
Dr. Danny Faulkner doesn't realize that Einstein is the
Paging
current
doctor.
science.
I think the doctor should go and see a doctor.
Yeah.
He got his doctorate from the same place that Dr. Dre got his doctorate.
One sec. Just, do you want to conclude your point, Anthony, and then if QA's got anything to add?
Yeah, Danny Faulkner. I suppose the point really is he's pushing the wrong science in the first place for gravity. Failed to mention the current science. When challenged to do it, described it as irrelevant. Didn't present any evidence to support his relevant science being credible. Obviously, we all know that Einstein is the current science, rightly or wrongly. Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. The point is that that's the current rhetoric that they've got to address. And we know that it was last considered to be a force in World War I. Yet he's written a book as a PhD astrophysicist telling people about gravity. And I just can't understand how anybody could write a book and fail to be current in his citation for science and gravity. It's ridiculous. We need to bully this guy because this guy's pushing pseudoscience and he doesn't realise it, or does realise it, but doesn't care.
Okay, just last but not least, QE, if you want to add anything.
Yes, Dr. Danny Faulkner, astronomer, PhD, University of South Carolina, is a lying psychopath and a pseudoscience pretender clown muppet that's just been demonstrated right here today. Again. Thank you.
Yeah, another big shout out to Sleeping Warrior and Quantum Eraser for obliterating this PhD astronomer, Dr. Danny Faulkner.
That'll be a nice cutout.
Yeah. Thank you. I was getting so frustrated on the last show. I was like literally pulling my hair out while Anthony's like, I'm just going to cut that bit.
We still love you, Anthony.
We do. You're still ace.
That's why I told you guys, calm down. He's just excited because we got Danny on the hook. So let him do what he's got to do. We'll get it. So yeah, good shit, Riley.
That's a toe tag. Been approached.
It definitely is a toe
Careful
tag.
though, not to blow out your voice, man. You can't
We
the
need
full
to do it in
volume
such a
up
way
every
that
single
all
day.
we need to do it in such a way that all the flat earthers mirror it, so that it's not like necessarily personal to him, but it's like it's impersonal, but it's capable of being passed around everybody. Because I don't know how can you get such criticism, obvious criticism that's on topic and valid, and just kind of flippantly dismiss it with a hand wave the way that the guy is doing? It's like we need to jump on him, like do this now. So let's get a toe tag going.
Especially saying things like only this is some crap only flat earthers are parroting. Like I'm straight off of this dude, bro. Like your whole narrative is telling you it's not a freaking force, and you want to lay that at flat earthers? It's a joke, bro. Doctor, that's a joke.
I saw an article the other day where it said that there was a supposed fifth column of forces discovered.
Whatever.
Quick shout out to Cleary, who's just hit the super chat. Says you can find Faulkner's book in the fiction section. Thank you for the super chat, Cleary.
I think that
He's gonna come out with part 2, Falling Flat 2. How falling flat fell flat. Just like that joke.
It's so flat, it's almost three-dimensional.
It's 2D. It's 2D McWestian.
If a joke falls flat,
Chocolate.
you have to wait for the tumbleweed. You
we
wait
just
for the
got through the
silence.
gradient error.
If If your joke falls flat, you
give chocolate some training on fair.
If your joke falls flat, chocolate, you have to wait for the tumbleweed moment when there's silence. So hopefully no one will interrupt this particular silence. Then you tap your mic and go, "Is this thing on?" That's what you got to do.
And then drop it. Prove gravity.
But since the joke fell flat, I thought I'd throw in another joke falling flat.
Oh, chocolate. It was in the gradient waiting to equalize. Just hang on.
All right, hold on.
So how does a mic dropping prove the bending of space-time?
I don't know. Maybe if you drop the mic in your kitchen, that somehow or another. It's something about the kitchen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that was the two Globers in a row brought up something in my kitchen. It was space time.
That's because the egg. That's because the egg timer's there.
Maybe they're making chocolate balls.
Oh my god!
Everything's
bad, man.
So just for those who didn't watch yesterday's show, the Rumpus claimed that pseudo-Riemannian for space, i.e. space-time, is real. It isn't. It's a mathematical description of a concept derived in Einstein's mind and then reified into existence by way of fundamentalist globetard who just simply assert that it's real. Now, we asked him to show us space-time. Show us space-time then, if it's real. And it can't be shown. It's merely conceptual. Now, I'm sure at some point he said, well, I'm sure that you find it difficult to understand Einsteinian concepts at some stage during the conversation, which was quite comic. I just missed it. I heard it on the replay. Wish I'd caught it live. But nevertheless, yes, it's just conceptual. So they're never going to actually be capable of showing you in existence. But what we were told to do is film yourself moving around in your kitchen. That was what we were told to do. And then later, an Orthodox came in and said, well, I'm just going to film some stuff in my kitchen to show you space-time. The fourth dimension apparently is available to view in an Orthodox kitchen. So if you want to see the fourth dimension, an Orthodox sees your man, apparently.
Man, he must have some heavy gravy up there. Some serious gravy tea.
To be fair, it wasn't created in Einstein's mind. He stole that shit from J.J. Thomson and Henri Poincaré.
Oh, I've got a screen share. What's going on? Do you need me to show something, Anthony?
Shout outs to Gleam in chat. Let me know when it's on, Nathan. He said, look up Danny Faulkner's Rational Wiki page. And there's a big, massive banner at the top of it. It says, this page contains too many unsourced statements. Love it. And it needs to be improved. Danny Faulkner is a young Earth creationist with actual scientific qualifications, and it says astronomy in brackets. But like Jason Lyle, he fails to comprehend how physics actually works. He did some actual research in astronomy relating to binary stars. Faulkner was a professor of astronomy and physics at an actual university, but he retired to work for the creationist and pseudoscience organization Answers in Genesis. Faulkner was an employee at the Institute for Creation Research, where he put on a facade where he thought he was doing real research. He was previously the dean of the astrogeophysics department at the ICR Graduate School, where he was pretending to teach astronomy and physics. This doesn't seem very neutral, does it? He earned a Bachelor of Science in Maths from Bob Jones University in 1976. It goes on for a bit more. Here we go. And I think this is quoting himself. He says, I'm really concerned with people who put that much faith into the Big Bang. It is the overwhelmingly dominant model, and they've had a few impressive predictions, like the background radiation, but it has many problems. They keep changing the model to make it fit the data we have. As a Christian, my biggest concern is that it doesn't agree at all with Genesis' account of how the world came to be. And my big concern is that when you make that the fingerprint of God, as it were, then when the Big Bang is discarded, what does that do to Christianity? Huh? John, are you listening to this, John?
What the
No,
hell?
but I am. I'm listening to it. The guy who denies Genesis, Rakia, the firmament, is now saying this. Are you kidding me?
And he said that the model changes too often?
Faulkner has been criticising the flat Earth movement in the pseudo-journal Answers in Genesis since 2016 in more than a dozen articles, probably because he saw that flat Earthism was making inroads into the Christian nutter community. I don't understand who's written this. This is mad. I'm gonna have to check and see if I got anything on here about me.
My personal favourite bit is
look.
where they say he's attempting to teach the pseudo-science of astronomy. It's like, well, not even if they're throwing him into the bus, they're saying, look, because he's teaching it, it's not really, I'm going to put this word in instead, but it's not really pseudoscience because he's teaching it. Like, reading that, I've got a bit of sympathy for the guy. You know, obviously there's a bit of cognitive dissonance going on if he's saying, well, they changed the model to make it work for the Big Bang. All right, Mr. I'm using 100-year out-of-date gravity. Oh, they changed the model? I wonder why.
Exactly.
He's actually got a citation on the bottom of this this page. Testing a flat Earth prediction. Is the moonlight cooling or cold? I can't remember what it actually said. I'm just waiting for it to load up. But I've been testing that recently, and it does appear to be different to like direct moonlight and shaded moonlight do seem to be different. But for some reason, it's not actually loading up. Let's try that again. Let's see what he says about it.
And what would that have to do with the nature of the Earth being flat, and what the temperature of the moonlight is? What in the world would that ever have to do with us here on Earth?
Well, it defies the argument that light is energy, doesn't it? Because if light's energy and you get moonlight direct onto you and then not onto you, there should be no difference if light is energy, because it should be the case that if it's not strong enough to change or warm up something because it's not strong enough, it should cause nothing. But if it's warmer in the shade and it's colder with the moonlight on you, for some reason it seems to have a negative energy attached to it, and it doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah,
So
hold on. That's baloney. There is no such thing as negative energy. The implication of the moonlight being hotter or colder has everything to do with, is the moon reflecting the sun's light? You don't have to go there with testing the temperatures. All you need is 60 level optics. You can't get a uniform reflection off a convex object, people. So, if the moon is reflecting the sun's light, it has to be either flat or concave. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
So, research specular reflections. If you want more details to back that assertion by QE, specular reflection.
I'm going to do a whole show on this.
Yeah, worth it.
I
feel, because that's one of those that people will come at. No offense to you, Anthony. People will come at this from various different angles, and you just want to go straight to the what destroys their assertions in regards to their rhetoric of a spinning ball Earth with a rock at a given distance from a spinning ball sphere. So, if you can debunk that assertion, in their model, it's lit by the sun. No, it isn't. That's the bottom line. It's not lit by the sun. The moon is not being lit by the sun. It can't be. According to their rhetoric, that's not possible. That's what you need to focus on. Now, I'm not going to pour scorn on anybody that's like, I don't know what the world is. I'm going to look into it. Good for you, Anthony. You know, bloody hell. That's what it's all about, right? We don't know, so let's have a look. However, while we're still on the subject of Danny Faulkner, I know we just segued away. Are we approaching this wrong? Danny Faulkner is at Flat Earth conferences, and like all of us, currently he's a globehead. But he's at all these Flat Earth conferences in the same way that people are in these debates arguing with us, means that they're obviously conscious of the subject and battling against some of the points we come up with. Presumably, he's in the same position. Maybe we're taking the wrong attitude towards him. Maybe.
What attitude would you suggest?
Well, like a cuddly-looking Russian cosmonaut, maybe we should put our arm around him.
No, bury him.
Polish.
Come on.
No?
The Earth was flat. What's the problem? What did he do?
What I'm saying is, could it be a possibility that he's on his Flat Earth journey? We just don't appreciate that.
Right.
No, I don't think so.
We don't know.
Well, I really wonder if he's ever
By
going
writing
to
a
get
book
on
called
hooked
Falling
on a
Flat.
project from NASA or anything ever again after this point.
All right, let's take a look at this, because I said this back in 2016 to him in my opening paragraph in our correspondence. He is a PhD astronomer, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
So, how can he not realize, number one, you can't have gas pressure without a container, and number two, that astronomy is pseudoscience? How can he go? Okay, I gave him one of two choices. I said either you're suffering from Neolithic incompetence, or number two, you're a psychopath. That's the only two conclusions I can come up with. Now, I could be wrong. Is there another choice here?
Well, it could be a more spontaneous, unexpected psychotic break, making him unable to comprehend things that he should to his level. That's
fair enough.
maybe a side option.
Would be a
That's fair
third
enough.
option, John.
That's Arwin. That's fair enough, Arwin. I would say, a mixture of two, like globehead syndrome in some sort of way. Yeah, I'd agree with that. A mixture of the two.
Yeah, I support that.
Sorry, not as black and white as one or two
I think it would be
psychopath.
hard for somebody to admit that what they've got a PhD in is pseudoscience. I think he wants to give himself a little bit more credit than that. I mean,
perfect.
The problem is when Anthony read that wiki article, he said that he realized that the Big Bang would be against the Genesis record, and yet he sees the same Genesis record talking about a firmament, a container, and he goes against the Genesis record. What do you call that?
I
I'm
agree
going to do a quick
totally.
plug because it's
The
linked.
level of contradiction in his statements was quite glaring. As Nathan said, he's on a journey, and those contradictions in how he's supporting one part of his current belief system with scripture, he's in for a rude awakening once he has to accept the rest of it, isn't he? So maybe he is on the journey, Nathan. But for me, if I'm being honest, he strikes me as somebody that's thought, oh, I can make some money out of this. That would be my guess as to his motivation for entering this arena.
and the reason I would back that up, Adam, is because that nonsense that I pointed out before, with him saying that it's just flat earthers asserting this stuff. Well, that's a blatant lie. And if you're a PhD in astronomy in your observatory and you've been into this argument for this long, and to this moment you're still saying that gravity is a force and that it's not a force, is something only being asserted by flat earthers, well, you're a straight liar to me.
Right, if there's a little gap, I'm going to do a quick plug, and hopefully this will come
Straight
across.
liar. And even
Am I not coming through in the Hangout?
Yes, you are.
I want to do a quick plug. So back in, I believe it was late 2017, I could be wrong, Quantum Eraser did a little speech, and the speech was explaining that as a flat earther, especially if you're an academic in this regard, a PhD, you're going to have to go through the process of realization in terms of your own pseudoscience if that's what you've been taught. And it's a painful process. The higher up you go in terms of your educational prowess, the harder it's going to be to let go of that. And if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley tonight, so that's 7 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Central Standard, there's a video that's going to be mirrored or repeated on the Quantum Eraser channel. And part of that discussion towards the end is me explaining my tentative and sometimes forceful discussion with Dr. John Dee. So Dr. John Dee had some of his assertions pulled apart by essentially a layman. That would be me. So I had to challenge a PhD in terms of his incorrect assertions. Now I hope Dr. John Dee, this is a long time since this has happened, won't think I'm throwing him under the bus by comparing him to Dr. Daniel Faulkner, but in the same way as described by Quantum Eraser about 12 months ago in that very inspirational speech, our own have had to go through this process of understanding also. The distinction between pseudoscience and science is where we win this argument. and many of our own who've paid considerable sums of money and time and effort to acquire degrees, at some point have to understand that part of the rhetoric they've been taught has been hijacked by pseudoscientists. Now, if it's the case that Dr. Daniel D is going through that process, he's going to be fighting against it whilst having the cognitive break described by Arwin, a psychotic episode, if you will, because he's fighting against everything he stood for, taught, and invested in for the entirety of his adult career. That's not, in some ways we need to have a certain degree of empathy for these people, and it's much easier when the person is self-confessed flat earther like Dr. John D, because you appreciate that to a certain level they're going to be willing to at least have a discourse with you, which we did. It took about a week or 10 days. But in this case, Dr. Daniel D is on his own journey, and we don't know where he is in that journey. We just know where he's incorrect, making misrepresentations of our argument, using stereotyping fallacies, etc., etc. And yeah, we're going to continue to expose that. But on the other hand, it might still be pertinent or prudent to still look into that avenue, i.e., does he need an arm around him? Because that, he's obviously not unfamiliar with the level of ridicule that he's had after you reading out that wiki article, Anthony. Right? He's obviously not. He's suffering the same sort of ridicule we suffer because of being a creationist.
Yeah, he is.
Interesting, very interesting. It's changed my attitude. You reading that wiki article to me has completely changed my attitude. Not necessarily going to change the way I approach this, but certainly makes me consider other aspects of this person as an individual, not as a representative of the heliocentric deception, which he is, but as a person, as a man. You've got to question, well, where is this man? Why is he here? It's the same questions we were asking before, just with a different mindset, right?
Right.
I think, Nathan.
And how long?
How
long did he come out for this? Because it might be that still the consequences really haven't caught up to him yet.
I bet they have. I bet he realizes. No, his career depends on this. It's inherent to his being. It's part of him. So I'm sure he's considered that, Arwin. He can't not have.
That's the point I was going to say, Nathan. From reading that article, for me, it changes the route of attack. The thing that's actually going to make him change his mind, for me, would be not Anthony's approach, but 10th Man's, and turning him to contradict his scripture that appears to be quite foundational in the other abuse he's taken, the other ridicule he's taken. So that would be the route for me. Just
yeah, I didn't mention. I wasn't specifying the conscious consequences, like the realization part. I'm pretty sure that probably entered him this point. I'm talking more about the consequences. Him being an astronaut and doing that.
He's not an astronaut.
What?
It just misspoke.
Oh,
astronomer. I know what you meant, Arwin. It's just a misspeak. Yeah, astronomer. Yes.
Something astro.
Yeah, it's part of him.
I just want to propose something to Nathan.
Go on.
You think you can make like a small invitational video for him, like if he would like to join us for debate? Not for a debate, but just for a show.
We can't have QE here though. It'll break off.
The thing is, how can he join us without having a debate when he's in conflict with us?
Well, no, to answer that, the one I'd say, yeah, the way I would approach that, given our current discussion, would be to suggest that we look for things we agree on, at least in the initial stages. In other words, try not to necessarily be confrontational. Inevitably, that will occur. I'd be a liar if I didn't agree with, was it Anthony that said that that's going to happen anyway? That's inevitable. But rather than saying we want to attack you and discredit you, let's actually see where we agree, and then let's see where the discussion goes in terms of where we disagree after we've sought common ground. I'm just spitballing here.
Be dead in 5 minutes.
What if he goes to Ranty's show? Because Ranty's is a little bit more calm and a little bit more. He's willing to, at least toe the line of the ballers, just for sanity's sake.
Yeah, fuck you too, and on.
What? Did I
I'm
miss
just
something?
joking. I'm just kidding. Just making your point whilst disagreeing with you comedically.
Ogres
ranting?
die on this show.
Has it
I
been 2
remember
weeks?
that name.
Has it been 2 weeks since his last video? He's probably dead.
Yeah, he's probably died.
Yeah, where is he?
Maybe he was trying to make a photograph when it was really, really cold, and his foot and boots and all froze into the ice, and he couldn't get free.
His section in the Ballbusters intro, in my humble opinion, is by far the coolest bit. Does anybody agree? I know, Chocolate, you probably think yours is.
If he does a Patricia on us and disappears, then we need to remake the video.
Nah, he's about. I speak to Ranty, he's around.
Isn't he using his camera and his drone for some other purposes, Nathan?
That was a joke in a private message thread. Just a joke. Don't repeat it.
What did Nathan
Nothing.
say?
Let's move on. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure?
Stop gossiping.
No,
No,
I
but I
pretended
think
he
Randy's
was.
still around.
Just so it doesn't get dangled out there, Arwin. I was pretending he was using his equipment for nefarious means. That was a joke, though.
Hey, Nathan, I think you maybe we're reading too much into Danny Faulkner's plight and giving him too much of a leash here. He did get educated in pseudoscience, not real science. So he's now arguing with flat earthers of all types, whether it's a Christian flat earther like me or others who believe in the flat earth. But then when it comes to creation, because he says he believes in God, he's got to believe that a creation must have had a creator. So he can't go with a Big Bang. But he doesn't feel it's safe to go against the pseudoscience education he's received to be the astronomer with the PhD. So I'm with Adam. I think he's doing it for money. I think he's deceived on this side. And I think he's liberalizing the Bible wherever he can liberalize the Bible. But that's between him and God. But we can cite it and we could address it. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing is, just by having this discussion, it demonstrates that we're not monsters. You know, Anthony's attitude, albeit correct, we should bully him on topic, not personally, in this regard. Yeah, that's correct. We should. Absolutely, we should attack the matter. That's what you mean by bully. I presume you mean attack the subject matter.
Yeah, always attack the subject matter, never attack the person. That's the big flaw that the ballers do. They attack the person always and ignore the message. And it's like, well, I was about answering how you can have gas pressure without a container rather than telling me something about my mum. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, I take my words back. Don't bury Dr. Danny Faulkner.
Well, we're interested in burying the rhetoric that's incorrect. If he's a purveyor of that rhetoric and he goes down with his rhetoric, that's his choice. You know, we're proposing questions as opposed to calling him a fraud. We might make the assertion upon him intentionally or seeming to be intentional in his deceit, incorrect assertions, misleading statements. Well, that's going to be damaging to him personally. That can't be helped. But we're attacking his incorrect assertions. He's made them. That's his bag. He's digging his own grave. That's why I was quite shocked when, I think it was this show, I can't remember, it might have been the last show, Anthony came on and like, he has actually responded. His response, he says, gravity's a force. You're like, oh my God. He was at the point where he could have walked away. And he didn't.
Yeah. And what I did notice happening in the background was when I started asking him questions, it was like he had minions. He didn't directly actively control these minions, but it was as if they came out the woodwork in his defence. How dare you challenge Mr. Faulkner? We'll defend him for Danny Faulkner, and he doesn't even need to ask. Meanwhile, my point's getting lost, and I'm trying to keep on to my point by ignoring them. And it's really difficult because they just don't want to have the conversation about gas pressure without the container, because they know that they want to say gravity, and then they know that we're going to say, hang on a second, and then they just can't win. So it's like you lose. You win the battle, but you lose the war in one sense, because his minions seem to deflect the whole conversation for him.
Oh, C also shows 1 to 100 of Flat Earth debate. What you're describing in text form is them drowning out your message or drowning out the question, or drowning out the fact the question hasn't been addressed, or drowning out the rebuttal to an incorrect assertion by flooding you with trolly messages. Well, that's how this debate ran at the start, before we knew all the tactics and tricks. Well, those tactics still apply everywhere, always. They're never changing.
The common denominator.
Hold on, 10th man. Thanks, Sleeping Warrior. Excellent work.
Later.
Good catch.
See you
Good
later,
toe
guys.
tag. See you later.
Cool. Bye.
See you. The common denominator is when QE comes on and says, what's the scientific method? And then when the ballers come on and they don't use the scientific method, when they cite the sources that they're citing, right? It's observation, it's opinion, it's this and that. We use the real strict, narrow definition of the scientific method that deals with the natural world as proof against their pseudoscience. The same is on the Christian side. When I meet up with a Christian who misrepresents what the Bible says, literally says, I have to say, wait a minute, are you making things up as you go, or are you going to believe the written word as it was written for us to know about who God is and what he wants us to do? Because you're changing it if you're going to say the firmament is allegorious. It's not written in that kind of language. So this is not just on the level of science and pseudoscience. It's on the level of what the Bible actually teaches, and then the various versions of liberal interpretation that Christians put on it when it's not convenient for them. So it's not convenient for Dr. Danny Faulkner to have a firmament because he's a what? PhD in what?
Astronomy.
Yeah. Well, how can you have a firmament in the current day of astronomy? Now, you could have the study of the stars within what the Bible says. They're within the firmament, but he's not saying that. He's buying into outer space, violation of the second law of thermodynamics. So he's got a fight with real science. He's got a fight with real interpretation of what the Bible says. He's got two fronts he's losing on.
Yeah, good summary.
So I think it will be really good if we can have him on peacefully.
I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah. See, on the other hand, we can have Neil deGrasse Tyson barbarically.
Yeah, every time things like this happen and we point out their incorrect assertions, that little bit that will get trimmed out from the earlier part of this show with QE and Sleeping Warrior discussing the matter. That's another red flag. Don't discuss this with these people. It will only end badly. If he's got half a brain, he'd know not to.
I think he chose not to, didn't he?
Yeah. But he made it clear, unless I can control the parameters of where the conversation's going, I'm not going to discuss this. He made it explicit.
Aww. So you must have full conversational control, basically. What's left? His story?
We got ballers in here.
Yeah, let's get him.
Looks like Zanuck has upgraded himself to 3.0.
Ooh.
Not that anybody cares.
Is he looking in 3 forums simultaneously?
Baxterish. Come off mute.
Tell us all about that, Coriolis.
M1, come off mute. What do you got to say?
Share your pain.
Oh,
Here, Globy, here.
Morning, gentlemen. Have we seen Coriolis today?
Good try.
Which kind? Earth-based Coriolis?
Oh, ballers. They
Any-
never
any
speak up when
Coriolis.
they should, and they never shut up when they should.
Earth-based Coriolis, you mean like the jet stream?
All of the examples
But
of
didn't you hear, Zanuck? Didn't you hear Coriolis got retired?
Oh, how did it get retired?
Oh, I'll tell you. All of the examples of Coriolis that come from your side of this argument start with the presupposition that Earth is turning before the example of Coriolis gets given. So it starts with the presupposition of a rotating, non-inertial globe Earth. And we won't allow you to beg the question in that regard.
We see effects, and we then try to figure out why those effects are occurring, and then we make a hypothesis that it's due to something rotating.
Yeah, you won't
pretty
dangle
common.
the word hypothesis either. Your presupposition that Earth will be spinning will be in effect for every one of these examples. You saying that we observe effect and then decide that we're going to presuppose Earth is spinning, i.e. you reverse the order, doesn't change the fact that you're going to be utilising a presupposition of a non-inertial spinning reference frame that is a globe Earth. That will happen.
No, if you see a ball deviating when you throw it and not following Newton mechanics, you say, why did that happen? Then you say, I don't presuppose, I conclude that it is rotating due to that effect.
Yeah, that's the same.
Not a
That's
presupposition at
you
all.
just saying that I see an effect and decide that I'm going to call it Earth curve rather than saying I'm deciding Earth is turning and then attribute an effect to it. It's just I've just said, Zanuck, I'm not going to let you reverse that presupposition and get away with that either. How dumb do you think I am?
Then you say, why is this curve happening? Why is this curve
Yeah, and you conclude that it's because Earth's rotating. Yeah, you make the presupposition afterwards. You're going to just say it 5 more times. I've already told you I'm not going to allow this to happen ever again. Your presupposition, regardless if it comes after you observing the effect or before, will not be tolerated any longer. No.
I told you I'm not going to presuppose that. I'm going to tell you that that's my hypothesis.
So I told you this a while back, Zanuck.
You already did that on the ball.
He wants to do it regardless. Let's do it. Let's do it. He said it's my hypothesis. Well, if it's a scientific prediction, it would require that you vary and manipulate that which you assume causes the effect. That would be the independent variable. You cannot vary your presupposition that Earth is rotating. That is not something that is within your capabilities of variation. So this is not going to ever become a valid hypothesis. This is nonsense.
I didn't presuppose anything.
Yeah, you
Yes,
did.
you did. You started out with a ball. Literally.
I didn't
Yes, you
presuppose
did.
it.
On a
I
ball.
supposed it.
That's literally how you
There's
started.
a difference. I see the curve, and therefore I then hypothesize that that curved path, that trajectory being curved, doesn't follow Newton mechanics. So I now suppose, not presuppose, I suppose that's due to we're being in a rotating object.
Third time. Whether your supposition comes before or after is irrelevant. It's still your supposition that Earth is a rotating reference frame. And it will not be tolerated.
Okay.
Told you this coming a while back, Zanuck. This entire argument from jump was begging the question fallacy. So, yeah, I told you you're going to have to prove your Earth is spinning before you decide to tell us that some effect that we don't actually see, Earth-based, is actually proof of your rotation. So, sorry, Zanuck.
Full pendulum. You know how those work, correct?
You're not going to get away with it. You're going to presuppose that
giving
the
you an
effect
example.
of Foucault pendulum is because Earth is rotating underneath. Yeah, your supposition will be in play for this example. So regardless of what you say, we're not going to allow you to talk about Foucault with a presupposition that Earth's spinning underneath it. No.
Well, what's moving then? How is the base moving if the Foucault pendulum will be moving in a plane, a fixed plane of path?
Who
of
gives a
direction
shit? It's a
of
man-made device.
So what does that have to do with anything?
So it doesn't have anything. It has no bearing on nature. It makes
I can
no
have a
difference
monkey- I
what
can
this
have a
man
monkey
made.
swinging on
I'm
a
responding
vine.
to you, Zanuck. You're not going to get many chances to talk through me on this occasion. I assure you of that. It's a man-made device. It's not a naturally occurring phenomena. It's beyond the realms of science. Why is it doing that? A man made it. That's why.
But not just
Man
that.
made
He
it, therefore
claimed that the
it
base
appears
was
to
moving.
rotate. That doesn't make any
How?
sense. So man made something and it magically rotates on its own.
It's not a natural phenomena. Science is exclusively interested in the physical and natural world. Natural phenomena. This bloody man-made device, the cause is man. That's your cause. So you telling me you've got a hypothesis is stupid pseudoscience, and I'm not interested in you utilising these words to weasel in your suppositions. No.
How is it pseudoscience?
But you
define
already
natural.
presupposed.
How
You
is it
started out
pseudoscience?
by
Because it's
saying
not.
the base was moving.
What's going on?
Sorry.
What's going on? It's a man-made device. Man made it. That's the cause. A man making it. It's not a naturally occurring phenomena. So no, you're not going to take me to deviating pendulums in nature that you need to figure out the cause of.
All right, tell me what natural is.
I couldn't give a shit. You're not going to get to beg the question of Coriolis here. Earth's not rotating. We're blatantly stationary. There is no examples beyond presuppositions, and you don't get to beg the question here. You're not going to get to ask me any questions about the subject either. Earth's not rotating. Beyond a presupposition that it's rotating, there are no examples.
Really? The things weigh less at the equator than they do at the North Pole?
That's a formal logical fallacy called affirming the consequent.
Affirming it? No, I'm proving it. Not.
If there is different weights as I move towards the presupposition of an equator, then I will see different weights on an equator-based Earth. It's if P, then Q, Q therefore P, and affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy.
Very good.
Very good. That's all you've got is logical fallacy to prove that we're spinning, and when I point out the logical fallacy, you say very good. No, the demolition of your religion in a globe Earth that's spinning. All you have to prove spin is logical fallacy and assumption of your outcome. It's pathetic.
I think there's an error in your logic. If you see something weighing lighter at the equator, why wouldn't you suppose that it could be due to Earth spin? What else could it be due to?
It could be due to any number of things. It could be due to any number of things beyond your fundamentalist religious assertion that Earth is a spinning, rotating ball. That's just your fundamentalist religious assertion that you've inserted into a formal logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. I've just explained this. Why would you ask me why it would not be justified for you to beg the question and assume your religious belief? Well, because it's assuming your religious belief and inserting it into this presuppositional argument that's a logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. You haven't addressed any of my debunkings of your complete garbage that doesn't prove we're spinning.
That's how science works. If you're a person of science,
it's not how science works.
Well,
science works by establishing the
Zenny.
cause and effect by varying an independent variable after observing a natural phenomena, formulating a hypothesis with a null, and then systematically experimenting to validate or invalidate the cause of that effect. The cause in this example being an Earth that you presuppose rotates. Well, you're never going to vary that. This is definitely not science. That's absolutely outrageous. You are a pseudoscience, pretender clown, globe-tard, religious, fundamentalist zealot. And all you can do is assert your fundamentalist religious belief rather than proving it. And the way you assert it is through logical fallacy. And with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's G+ and Discord panel for making this show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!